Hari Om, Radhe Krishna. We were in the Bhagavad Gita Dhyana Shlokam, first shloka. We were covering few more points I want to highlight on the first shloka. Before that, Swamiji has covered some more important points we all should know regarding the Bhagavad Gita. When I was going through, I thought I'll share with you. Because these are the highlighting points which are very important for every individual, because gaining this knowledge so that we can transform ourselves, like Vaidyanatji was referring, every action we have to see whether we have transforming ourselves. It's God's grace that since 30 years Swamiji guided us, and whatever we are saying is referring Swamiji's book and Shastras, and he has told us to share with everyone as one family. So we are sharing whatever we have learnt and whatever we are studying and whatever is said by the Shastras and Swamiji. So every point in that is very important for every individual. So here he is referring, in the Vedic tradition there are three major source books that deal with self-knowledge. They are the Upanishads, the Brahma Sutras and the Bhagavad Gita, collectively known as the Prasthanatraya. Among these, the Bhagavad Gita is the most widely read. The Bhagavad Gita, or the Song of the Lord, occurs in chapters 23 to 40 of the Bhishma Parva of the Mahabharata. The Gita comprises 700 verses divided into 18 chapters. Of these verses, 645 are in Anushtup meter. Gita is considered to be a Smriti in contrast to the Upanishads, which, as a part of the Vedas, are considered to be Shruti. Shruti, that which is heard, is part of an oral tradition and is considered to be revealed knowledge, whereas Smriti, on the other hand, is a body of literature born of a human mind. Even though the Gita is a Smriti, it is given the status of a Shruti because its subject matter is the same as Upanishads and it does not contradict the message of the Upanishads. So Gita is equal to Upanishad. Whatever the knowledge we gain Gita is what is told in the Upanishad. That's what Swamiji is highlighting. Vyasa presents the Bhagavad Gita as a dialogue between Arjuna, the student who seeks to know the truth, and the Lord, the teacher, and Lord Krishna as the teacher. So here, each one of us, when we learn, we have to put ourselves there. So every question will be answered to us through Lord Krishna. We can make out in the Gita. That is the very great thing in Bhagavad Gita. So here, Arjuna's conflict between his value for doing his duty as a prince and his love for his family, teachers and friends. That was the conflict going on in him. So here Lord Krishna says every individual all have conflicts, internal and external. So for striking the balance only, the Bhagavad Gita gives us that knowledge. Both are important. Our duties are important, material world is important, spiritual knowledge is important. But as the time is very less, we have to strike a balance properly. We should not escape from the duties. That is very, very important. Many people try to escape duties because knowledge is important. Swamiji used to tell, they come to ashram not seeking for knowledge. So that's not be the attitude. First, as told in the Gita and the further verses, first duty is our house duty towards our family, towards our society. In that, while performing that duty, how to do it with discipline and other factors, that is told in the Gita. That is more important, that knowledge. Not to escape from duties and gain the knowledge sitting only gaining this knowledge. Gaining this knowledge for doing the duties, that understanding we have to be very clear. Because many times it happens, we escape from that and try to take the knowledge and spend more time. Nothing wrong in spending, but keep 1 hour, 2 hours, finishing our duty, then practicing this knowledge in our duties. That is more important. Not just gaining knowledge. That is very, very, as Swamiji says, many people will take the bookish knowledge or read many books and compare. All that we can do, nothing wrong. But then every action, how we practice it with this knowledge to transform ourselves. We should not compare with others, because each level varies, each individual's action varies, each one's prarabdha is different. So only this knowledge from the day, one morning to evening, how to improve ourselves with this Bhagavad Gita. That's why Lord Krishna says to Arjuna that every individual, it is Gita is for every individual, for every Jivatma. So that is the highlighting factor where Swamiji is referring. So Arjuna was confused whether to run away from the battlefield, how to do the duties properly. He was confused. So this knowledge helped him. That's what is the highlighting factor. While Arjuna's duty is to uphold dharma, he feels trapped for doing the war. This conflict creates a confusion in him regarding the right course of actions. He asks Lord Krishna to teach him that which is ultimate good, Shreyas. He discovers in Krishna a teacher, and he assumes the role of a student, desirous of gaining knowledge. So, to Arjuna, the qualified student, Lord Krishna unfolds the teachings of the scriptures. So we have to be qualified, as he says, and it's not that difficult also. Every devotee can reach that, provided we have a disciplined lifestyle and study of the scriptures. Surely every person can see the difference. The Gita addresses the fundamental quest of a human being for freedom from a sense of limitation and sorrow. That is the highlighting factor. Why the sorrow? What is the reasons for the sorrow? All pursuits in life, such as righteous living, securities and pleasures, are meant for gaining a sense of adequacy and inner fulfillment. The message of the Gita is that these pursuits can only offer a person temporary happiness, while the fundamental quest of a human being is for abiding absolute happiness. The Bhagavad Gita unfolds the nature of the self as happiness, free from all limitations. This knowledge is known as Brahma Vidya and is also referred to as Vedanta. So the highlighting factor is, because of our ignorance, we feel we are limited, as I have told in earlier chapters in Narayanam also. So we are removing the ignorance. We are purifying ourselves by removing the ignorance, removing the prarabdha karmas. As I earlier told, Sanchita karma is the load of the karmas, prarabdha which has fructified now, and agami which we are doing. So from this agami, we can make our destiny. So it is in our hands. That's why the free will is given only to a human being. How to change our lifestyle with this being in the material world, and gain that knowledge. I should be in the world. The world should not control me. I should control the world. That attitude, that understanding is very important. So he is telling, we are the limitless, infinite person. A jiva is. Because of limitations, we feel limited. We feel that insecurity, inadequate feeling, not happy. So these situations, circumstances, people, objects, everything will vary. Everything, if you accept as they are, that is the teaching which Gita refers. If we start accepting as they are, then we can see the transformation. So the Bhagavad Gita knowledge helps us to remove that limitations in us. We are bound now, and we are removing that bondage because of ignorance. Our nature is happiness. Because of our karmas, our desires of previous janmas, it is covered like how a mirror is covered with the dust. So, by removing that impurity, then that light is revealed to us, that knowledge is revealed to us. In order to gain this knowledge, one requires a mind that is mature and relatively free from conflicts. The attitudes and disciplines that help one gain such a mind are discussed in the Gita under the subject matter known as Yoga Shastra. These topics include universal values, Samanya Dharma, the attitude which regards to action and their results, yoga, the role of devotion, bhakti, the duties in the various stages of life, Varnashrama Dharma, the two lifestyles, Karma Yoga and Jnana Yoga, and practice such as Dhapa, meditation. All this Swamiji is referring how to climb the ladder step by step. The teaching tradition looks upon the Gita as an unfoldment of a Mahavakya, Tattvamasi, you are that. A Mahavakya is a sentence revealing the identity of the individual and the Lord. You, Tvam, indicates the individual. Tat, that, stands for Ishvara. Asi, R, points out the identity. Aikya, that is, Paramatma and Jivatma are one. Between the individual and the Lord, that Aikatvam, we understand this. There is no difference, there is no duality. Is one, Ekameva Advitiyam. The 18 chapters of the Gita can be divided into 3 sections of 6 chapters each. The first 6 chapters deal with the individual, the second 6 chapters describe the Lord, and the last 6 chapters unfold the identity between the two, the Jivatma and the Paramatma. Unfolding Brahma Vidya and Yoga Shastra, Lord Krishna tells Arjuna, giving him freedom from sorrow and limitations. Even though the teachings of Lord Krishna took place on the battlefield of Kurukshetra and was meant for Arjuna, the message of the Bhagavad Gita is a timeless message for all humanity. That's what he's highlighting, that it is timeless, beyond time, beyond limitations. That is the highlighting factor of the Bhagavad Gita. So I wanted to cover in this verse before I enter to the first verse we were covering. Before that, I wanted to highlight this so that it will be useful for us in the further Dhyana Shlokas. The subject matter of the Gita. What is the Gita subject matter? What did Lord Narayana teach Arjuna? What was taught is described as a shower of nectar. Nectar generally comes only in drops, but in the Gita, nectar is showered upon us. What kind of nectar is it? All nectars are sweet to the taste, but do not last forever. Gita nectar is different. Not only does it provide happiness here, it also showers us with non-duality, its subject matter. That is very important. In non-duality, there is no second thing. Therefore, with this knowledge, all fear is removed, is eliminated. Only in duality can there be fear. Fear cannot exist in non-duality because there is no second thing to fear. That is a very highlighting factor. And the word by word I was covering the first Dhyana Shloka. The meaning of Narayana. There are many ways of looking at the meaning of the word Narayana, one of which is particularly relevant here in the Gita. The word Nara is used to refer to a human being. It also means indestructible, that which always remains, not destroyed. Nara, therefore, can only refer to that which pervades everything, and it is timeless, Atma in Sanskrit. Atma here refers to I, the essence of the subject, who performs various actions and enjoys various forms of experiences. There is an entirely different meaning from which we commonly understand by the word I. Therefore, the real meaning of the word Nara, human being, is to be understood from the Shastras to be the all-pervading, all-pervasive and timeless Atma, Paramatma. That which belongs to the Nara is, or Jagat, the world. The world is born out of the all-pervasive timeless Paramatma, is sustained by Paramatma and goes back to Paramatma. So we conclude here. Further again we'll discuss on the first verse of the Dhyana Shloka with deep meaning. Hari Om, Radhe Krishna. Hari Om, Radhe Krishna. We were in the Srimad Bhagavad Gita Dhyana Shlokam, first Shloka. We were going through the meaning. Few more points Swamiji has emphasized before entering the further Dhyana Shlokas. We should be very clear about the concepts about Narayana, about the Jagat, about the Ishvara, so that it will be very clear when we try to learn the further chapters. Swamiji has emphasized that every individual, first the goal has to be very clear, the focus. That is, as I have already referred, our goal is to reach the ultimate. That should be in the back of our mind, that should be connected to the infinite always. That is very important. We should be a mukshu, because this knowledge, unless we practice that, unless we pray to Goddess Saraswati, to the Almighty, that I should gain that knowledge. Because as Swamiji always says, prayers are very powerful, because that free will which Lord has given us as for human being only, how to use that properly is we have to pray every day to gain that knowledge, to know that Brahma Tattvam is not that easy. It's not for a material knowledge itself. We struggle for a PhD for 30 years. Then to attain to know the ultimate, how much effort we have to put. Though we have everything in hand, but still our mind has to be focused. We should be a mumukshu, a jignasu, and pray to Lord to brighten my intellect. That is very, very important, because as we are gaining this knowledge, every individual should see the transformation. Otherwise, next Janma again will continue, as Swamiji Simhananda used to tell, womb to tomb and tomb to womb. That should not be. We are coming out of the cycle of birth and death. We all will reach, but at least we are climbing, and our Sanchita Karma we are exhausting. That is very important. So the understanding of every word, Bhagavan, Ishvara, Sanchita Karma. So for exhausting the Sanchita Karma, we have to have that focus first. So Prarabdha has to be fructified. So for that we pray, and with Agami we use our free will and reach the ultimate. So once we try to gain that knowledge, automatically the Sanchita Karma which is stored, everything will get exhausted at the wake of the knowledge, at the wake of wisdom. So Swamiji, that's why he's highlighting every word, so that the concept has to be very clear. Swamiji says that Nara is the entire world, and the one who knows it is Narayana, the omniscient Lord, Parameshwara with reference to the world. Therefore, the same Atma, the Nara Atma, the human being, is the omniscient Paramatma, Parameshwara, the Lord. Because the omniscient Narayana was the one who was teaching Arjuna, everything that was taught in the Gita is considered valid. Narayana is the one who knows and is also the one to be known through the Vedas. So Swamiji is highlighting, I thought it's very important to share this knowledge. Similarly, Ishvara is all knowledge and all powerful, which is manifest in the form of Akasha, space, Vayu, air, Agni, fire, Apaha, water, Prithvi, earth, and we know the plants, Annam, food, and this Sharira, the body. This Sharira is made up of the physical body, pranas, the organs of knowledge, the organs of action, and the mind. All this we have to clearly understand. The concept becomes later very clear. That's why Swamiji is emphasizing. All these, that is, the individual and the total, are the manifestations of Parameshwara. Now, where is Ishvara located? It's not that Ishvara is everywhere, but everything is Ishvara. That's why many times we say, see me in everything, see everything in me. That is, see Ishvara in everything and see everything as Ishvara. Because that concept, that attitude we should have. So towards the individual, towards the objects also. Many a times towards the individual we might not have because of our vasanas and various gunas. So for that one is Lord is emphasizing the gunas like jealousy and all this, how it will go when we see Ishvara in everyone. If their character is different, that Lord will take care. But our goal is to reach the ultimate. That being in our that being the attitude, we have to see Ishvara. So that is very, very important. See everything as Ishvara. All knowledge is Ishvara, space is Ishvara, and along with space comes time, which is also Ishvara. Air is Ishvara, fire is Ishvara, water is Ishvara, earth is Ishvara, body is Ishvara, thought is Ishvara. The prana is Ishvara, everything is Ishvara. So the one who is conscious of everything, that consciousness is indeed Ishvara, because without consciousness there is no knowledge. Knowledge is Ishvara, knowledge is consciousness. Therefore, he compares knowledge is like comparison like gold or shirt. Like a shirt, without the fabrics we can't form a shirt. Like same way, well, consciousness is like the fabric, the truth of knowledge. That's why the truth he is revealing with different examples. Gold also same way, different forms we have for gold. So consciousness is the truth of Ishvara, and that consciousness is you. That is why there is oneness. There is Nirguna, Nirakara, Ishvara. That consciousness is the truth of knowledge. There being no knowledge without consciousness. So that, but consciousness is not knowledge. So we have to be very clear. So through knowledge, we try to understand the whole thing. You are that consciousness, but as an individual, your knowledge is limited, whereas the knowledge of Ishvara is total. But through this knowledge, we try to understand and elevate ourselves. The individual is the manifest form of Ishvara. So he is one of the manifest form, every individual. That limitless knowledge of Ishvara is also consciousness, and limited knowledge of the individual is also consciousness. So both he is comparing, both are consciousness. That is like the wave and the ocean. Ocean is Lord and wave is Jiva. So he is comparing. So can we separate wave from ocean? No. So it is non-dual. So we can't see the duality. Both water merges with the ocean, waves merge with the ocean. So there's no difference. That's why he's comparing. Wherein both are nothing but water. In that sense alone, when it is said that you are Ishvara, it does not mean that you are all knowledge that is omniscient. Your knowledge is limited, and you are looking at consciousness through an individual's mind which has limited knowledge. Therefore, you are an individual, but when you say I, you mean essentially consciousness, and that is the truth of Ishvara. So for making understand, he is highlighting that. So how step by step a limited individual becomes limitless individual, and through understanding. That's what Swamiji is highlighting. Shirt exists, but it's not Satyam real. It's neither false nor non-existent. So he is comparing what is the truth, what is the Satyam, and what is the Maya. So that's what he is highlighting in this. When we say Bhagavan, he is the one who has total knowledge and total power. But when we say I am a Jiva, we have limited knowledge and limited power. The one who has Bala, strength, we call this as Balavan. One who has wealth, we call him as Dhanavan. Whereas the word Bhaga is traditionally understood as the sixfold virtues in absolute manner, Bhagavan. They are Jnana, all knowledge, Vairagya, total dispassion, Virya, the capacity to create, sustain and resolve, Yashas, absolute fame, Shri, all wealth and Aishwarya. Shri is all wealth and Aishwarya is overlordship. They are known as Bhaga. The knowledge of Bhagavan is total and absolute. That means it is free from any ignorance. The one who has total knowledge does not require a mind, nor the senses, nor the means of knowledge to know. Where there is mind, as in the case of an individual, ignorance would always be there. Therefore, thus, whoever is endowed with a mind to know cannot be Bhagavan. The individual jiva has only limited knowledge and limited power. Absolute and total dispassion is called Vairagya. The one who has this dispassion has no longing or insecurity. So we have to very clearly understand. So with removal of ignorance, we try to understand the absolute knowledge. Virya is absolute power, and this absolute power rests in Bhagavan. It is the capacity to create, to sustain, and to resolve, whereas the individual jiva has only limited power. All glories belong to him, and they are absolute. Bhagavan has total wealth, Shri, when all that is manifest here is Ishvara. Where is individual wealth? Our wealth is only what Bhagavan has given us. So, home, children, is all this, whatever we have, one's capacity to earn are all wealth, but it's all given to us by Lord. It is the prasada of Bhagavan we should think. That is the doership. That's why here again some emphasize the doership. We are not the owner. Within his infrastructure called the Jagat, and it does not belong to us. So everything is his. It is as though we are owning it. That's what he's highlighting. Total overlordship, Aishwarya, also belongs to the Lord. Aishwarya Bhava, the nature of the Lord, the capacity to lord over and to be in control is Aishwarya. So these 6 qualities we see in Bhagavan. Ishvara is everything, and everything constitutes the various forms of Ishvara. When we say form, it can be further reduced to another form, and finally, what is there is only the cause of all, the Lord. And all that which was reduced to the Lord were but names sustained by the same Lord. So, Lord's name is recognized through a form. All forms are manifestation, as we have seen, of Ishvara only. So, different names and forms are all manifestation of Ishvara. Ultimately, everything is one infinite form, one infinite, formless, ultimately Nirguna Swarupa. So, that is how he has highlighted. So, we have understood what is Narayana, what is Jagat. So, with this understanding, we'll move further. So, Swamiji is emphasizing that you are everything, that there is nothing other than you, is not an ordinary subject matter. That is what is meant by non-duality. Non-duality means that you are the whole. That which gives you this vision is the nectar of non-duality. Nectar is used here because just as nectar is something to be tasted, to be experienced, non-duality is something to be understood by every individual. That's what Swamiji is highlighting. The goddess Gita showers the nectar of non-duality upon us. This shower of nectar is the vision of non-duality. It is the message of the Lord. The Gita is Bhagavati and therefore not separate from Bhagavan's vision. United with the vision of Bhagavan, she is as though in wedlock with him, and they both bless us as one. So, this highlighting factor is she blesses us and she gives us this highest knowledge of Bhagavad Gita. So, this nectar of non-duality destroys the bhava, the samsara completely. Bhava means a life of becoming with all of its problems and fears, a life of sorrow, bondage, birth and death, everything vanishes with this knowledge. So this teaching is therefore the medicine for samsara. Lord says that by which the whole samsara is destroyed means it is a maya, it is an illusion. So with that understanding, so we understand the whole samsara, how it is. The destroyer of samsara and the nectar of non-duality go together and refer to Gita as mother, the one being invoked in these verses, further verses. So in the first sloka, we salute the Mother Gita by meditating upon her, by invoking her before we start our study. Also, we cannot think about the Gita without thinking about Arjuna, called Partha, as well as Lord Krishna and Vyasa. The second verse, therefore, is addressed to Vyasa, to our salutations to sage Vyasa. Hari Om. I conclude with this session with this first sloka. Further, we'll discuss. Radhe Krishna. Radhe Krishna. Hari Om. Radhe Krishna. We were in the Bhagavad Gita Dhyana Slokam, second slokam. नमोऽस्तु ते व्यासविशालबुद्धे फुल्लारविन्दायतपत्रनेत्र येन त्वया भारततैलपूर्णः प्रज्वालितो ज्ञानमयः प्रदीपः. We concluded the first Dhyana Shloka, the word meaning of the second Dhyana Shloka of the Bhagavad Gita. Vishala Buddhi, one whose intellect is vast. Fullara Vindayata Patra Netra, one whose eyes are clear and pleasing like a fully blooming lotus. Vyasa, O Vyasa, Yena, by whom, Tvaya, by you, Bharata Taila Purnaha, that which is filled with the oil of the Bharata. Pradeepaha, the lamp. Jnanamaya, in the form of knowledge. Prajwalitaha, well lighted. Thee, to you. Namostu, let my salutations be to you. The translation meaning of that sloka is, O Vyasa, the one whose intellect is vast, whose eyes are clear and as pleasing as a fully blooming lotus, who lit the lamp of knowledge well by filling it with the oil of the Mahabharata. To you, my salutations. Swamiji explains the vastness of Vyasa's intellect. Vyasa is described as the one, sage Vyasa is described as the one whose intellect, whose knowledge is vast. He wrote thousands of verses, meaning that they simply flowed out of him. There's a story that tells us that when Vyasa was planning to write the Mahabharata, he wanted to dictate the epic to a stenographer. Because there was no shorthand at that time, stenographers had to write very quickly in longhand. But no human being could take dictation from Vyasa because his mind was so quick and clear. He just reeled out the verses and no one could hope to keep up with him. So he asked Lord Ganesha to be his stenographer. Ganesha agreed on one condition, that Vyasa would not stop dictating once he began. Vyasa agreed for it, but he also had one condition, that Ganesha should understand everything he said in every sense. Agreeing to this condition, Ganesha pulled out one of his tusks, sharpened it, and with it wrote down Vyasa's Mahabharata on palm leaves. That is why Lord Ganesha is portrayed as having only one tusk. In the Mahabharata, we will find, for the most part, simple descriptive verses, but every once in a while there will be a verse which is all profound with different meanings. The reason why sage Vyasa did this was so that Lord Ganesha could have a breathing time, because Lord Ganesha understood so easily what was being written. Vyasa had to throw out a difficult verse whenever he wanted a break. If we count these verses, then we can find out how many times he has stopped. By the time Ganesha figured out the meaning, sage Vyasa had his time out and was ready to begin again. That was the great sage Vyasa. The clarity of Vyasa's vision. Vyasa had beautiful big eyes. They are described in this verse as being like a fully blooming lotus eyes that were clear and pleasing. Vyasa is also compared here to a lamp that sheds light, the light of knowledge. This lamp is very well lit. He is therefore the one who lights the lamp of knowledge for us. The lamp that was lit by Vyasa is filled with the oil of the Mahabharata. This epic is considered to be the fifth Veda because it is true to the knowledge found in the Vedas. It seems to have been written for the sole purpose of lighting up this knowledge. So Mahabharata is considered as the fifth Veda. When a small object is presented against a much larger background, its beauty is often more evident. Same way, the Mahabharata is like a canvas from whose vast background the Vedic knowledge emerges. Knowledge is the lamp and the epic is its fuel, Swamiji says. The fuel is for the lamp is not for the fuel. Very beautifully Swamiji has explained. This verse then is paying tribute to sage Vyasa, who lit up the wisdom of the Vedas with the oil of the Mahabharata. So unto you, to sage Vyasa, who lit the lamp of knowledge with the epic fuel, our salutations. So Swamiji is emphasizing what knowledge? What is that knowledge? Is talking about Brahma Vidya, means simply what is Brahman, what is Ishvara, the Lord, what is the reality of the world, Jagat, what is the nature of the individual Jiva, what is the truth of oneself, Atma, what is the relationship between the Jiva, the Jagat and Ishvara. That is the beautiful comparison. We have to understand each one individually and together that knowledge. That is, he is emphasizing. What is the reality of each of them? Is there anything common among them? Are they all one or are they separate entities? Brahma Vidya, knowledge of Brahman, reveals all of this. To gain this Brahma Vidya, there are certain qualifications mentioned, which Karma Yoga alone can provide. To help one gain these qualifications, Karma Yoga is discussed in detail in the Bhagavad Gita. Because both Karma Yoga and Brahma Vidya are dealt with, the Gita is considered complete and referred to as Gita Shastra. That is what is meant by one particular verse praising the Gita. Gita Sugita Kartavya Kim Ananyah Sastra Vistaraihi. The Gita has to be studied well. What is the use of studying other books in more details? The completeness of the subject matter unfolded by the Gita is highlighted here. See, what Swamiji is highlighting is any book, any Upanishad, anything we have to go deep. That is very, very important. That's why, as the time is limited, take one and we have to go deep. Let it be Bhagavatam, let it be anything, any Upanishad, everything deals with the Brahma Tattvam. But Gita, in a simple way for a individual, is explained in a very simple way so that for a layman also can reach the ultimate. It's not difficult. Upanishads also explain, it's a little more deeper. Once we understand Gita, the Upanishads also we Shankara Bhashya, if we start reading, we can easily understand. And in a simple word, if we learn through a guru, so the concept becomes very clear. That's why he's emphasizing. People always say that whenever they are in trouble, they go to the Gita and their problem is solved. Maybe they do find answers in the Gita because one can read into it whatever one wants. See, he is referring that it is so sacred scripture with bhakti and shraddha. If you open the book and whatever problem we reveal to the Lord, for that problem we get that answer. That is the greatness of Gita. That's what Swamiji is highlighting. See, Swamiji is referring the knowledge of oneself is in the form of words. But since the subject matter is something very unique, the knowledge is not easily accessible through words. At the same time, words are employed to reveal the self properly. Therefore, one requires not only the teaching, Vedanta, as a pramana, but also a teacher, a guru is very, very important. Only with the book, unless we are that much grace is there, that much punya we have done, to understand ourselves, it requires a lot of grace. But Guru only helps us to know the concept very clearly. So the teacher is very, very necessary. The need for a teacher. There are two letters in the word Guru. Gu meaning darkness, as we all know, or ignorance, and Ru meaning the one who removes it. Thus, a Guru is the one who removes the darkness of ignorance by teaching the Shastra. The teaching is this Shastra, and the teacher is also the Shastra. As the teacher, then I do not use the Shastra, rather, what I teach is Shastra. That's why Swamiji is telling. Whatever he teaches is Shastra only. So, teacher also becomes Shastra. So, what it means, the teaching itself comes to life when it is handled in a certain way. Otherwise, all you have are so many words. Even though the teaching is a pramana, so there is a methodology employed. There is a methodology employed for unfolding the words, because otherwise, with proper unfoldment only, we can express and explain the whole concept. So the explanation of the words are very important. Just as an artist unfolds a beautiful landscape, so also the words has to be understood properly to unfold the teachings. Who is the first Guru? So the first Guru is not going to be different from the Lord. And from that Lord downward there is teacher-student lineage called Guru Shishya Parampara. The entire Parampara is praised in the very important verse. Sadashiva Samarambha Shankaracharya Madhyama Asmad Acharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam. I salute the lineage of teachers, beginning with Lord Shiva, Shankaracharya in the middle, and extending down to my own teachers. This is a very important sloka where Guru Shishya Parampara it talks about. Thus, when we salute the teacher, our salutations goes to the Lord in whom the lineage has its beginning. To point out one of the links, Shankaracharya is mentioned as being in the middle, meaning somewhere in the flow between the Lord and one's present teacher. The word middle having been used, there must also be an end. If the beginning is Lord Shiva, meaning the Lord, one who is all fullness, all knowledge, and the middle is Shankara, then one who is at the end, my teacher, Asmadacharya. So this Guru Shishya Parampara, my salutations. Another beautiful verse Swamiji refers regarding to how to gain this knowledge. Acharyat padamadatte padam shishya swamedhaya padam swa brahmacharibhyah padam kalakramena cha. That is, a student obtains 1/4 from the teacher, 1/4 from his own thinking, 1/4 from all students, like in study circle we learn, and 1/4 in course of time. So like 100% that way he gains that knowledge. So Swamiji is referring, if you look into the teaching, if we are interested in what is being taught, our whole attitude and approach should be totally to gain that knowledge. So then only we can receive the knowledge from the teacher properly. So that's why, as I earlier told, the prayer is required for our intellect to brighten, to gain that Brahma Tattvam. So that knowledge, teacher will be telling without any questioning. Questioning attitude is okay, but not with the questioning the teacher. Questioning the subject is okay. That's what Swamiji is highlighting. That relationship has to be down to earth, that love towards the teacher, to gain, being a mumukshu, to gain that ultimate knowledge. So both sadhana and sadhya is important. To gain that end, the means has to be proper. So to accomplish that ultimate, we have to have the dedication towards the teacher. That's what is highlighted in the second Dhyana Shloka. Further, we'll proceed in the next session. Hari Om, Radhe Krishna, Radhe Krishna. Radhe Krishna, Hari Om. We were discussing Srimad Bhagavad Gita Dhyana Shlokam, third Dhyana Shlokam. Before entering into the third, I thought I'll share with you. We were hearing Swami Paramarthananda's talks. Very beautifully, he has explained about the Brahma Tattvam for all of us to contemplate. I thought I should share with you the concept. The more we discuss, the more it becomes clear. So he has mentioned that, as we all know already, earlier also we have told, Brahman is independent, not dependent on anything. Like gold, example is gold, is not dependent on anything. Bangles, necklaces, etc. depend on the gold. Same way, from Brahman cause, the effect has come is Ishvara, the Maya Shakti, the names and forms. So, everything is dependent on Brahman only. Ishvara, Maya Shakti, it's not independent. So, the names and forms, the all-pervading Brahman, omniscient, omnipresent, is independent always, whereas, and it is changeless, beyond time and space, limitless, whereas the Jagat, the creation created by Ishvara, is changing, it will be changing, and it is within time and space. So the reality is, it is temporary. Like how I have already told, the dream state, with the mind we create a universe and we think as though everything is Ishvara. Same way, in Brahman, Ishvara is like a mind. So he has created this universe which is temporary, which is changing. So that is the effect of the Jagat. So very beautifully he has told about the dream. So Ishvara has created everything, names, forms. So the law of karma also, Swamiji says that, according to the Samashti Shrishti, Samashti karmas, like individual karmas, then Samashti together. Whereas animals and other things are programmed, but whereas we human beings have the free will, as I already have told, in this Agami karma we can use it properly and attain. So what he was referring was, someone has questioned how this corona also came. This is also part of Srishti, he was telling, Samashti karma. The Samashti karma has fructified, that is all individuals together, put together, it has fructified. So the free will, how we have used it, that's why it's very, very important. How when each individual uses his free will, becomes Vrishti to Samashti. So now also in Corona, some are affected very badly, some are doing too much religious activities. Why? Because the Samashti karma, which they have gained from Sanchita, and now the Agami. So everything put together, the results comes. So because of the Samchita was good, Prarabdha was good, and especially the Agami, that is the free will, now we are using it properly. That is very, very important. So Swamiji was referring how it has come. That is, again we can't bring God here. It is law of karma of the human beings. So with the prayer, with the good effect, with proper use of free will, it has to go on its own. So here, because how we misused the nature, this has come out. So that's why the free will has to be especially for human being, because the discrimination is given only to a human being. So from the day of birth till his last breath, dharmam and satyam is very, 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 very important. Swamiji was referring. Puja, etc., everything depends somehow on every small action. from the day we were born, because that's why conscience we say. Anything, thought, word, even a thought, adharmic thought, asatyam, it will have an effect. That's why we have to have a clear chitta shuddhi before we contemplate on Brahma Tattvam, because which is very, very important. So every action, every thought is added in our karmas. So the samashti karma is just fructified, but surely by God's grace and with so many people who are praying, and God will take care that who are not on the spiritual path also, He will guide them, and they also have to use their free will properly. Again is their karma. So that's why Swamiji always says, every human being, we have to be in the satsangam, because probably if the sanchita karma is not okay and the prarabdha is not okay, but whereas being in the satsangam, everything we can win over. With the satsangam, with the grace of Guru, with the grace of Lord, the whole destiny we can change. That's what Swami beautifully highlighted. That's why every day we have to be in the contemplation of the Lord. Brahma Tattvam, being the satsang, the thought, word and deed should go together always. Brahma Satyam Jagat Mithya. So this highlighted very much. So we all pray that this pandemic should end smoothly and everyone should gain this knowledge that we all can pray. Each individual's prayer is counted for the whole world. Vasudeva Kudumbakam, we say. We will pray for everybody. That thought, that broad vision, every individual in the satsangam we have, everything will change. That's what Lord is telling us. So we all will pray for that in this new year. So now entering the third sloka of the Dhyana Shlokam. Prapanna parijataya totravetraikapanaye jnanamudraya krishnaya Gita mrudaduhe namaha. The word meaning, Prapanna parijataya, unto the one who is the wish-fulfilling tree, which is for those who have surrendered. That's also a very highlighting point. Total surrender, utmost bhakti, not even a 0.1% of doubt on Ishvara. He will take care means He will take care. That attitude is very, very important. Totrave Traikapanaye, unto the one who has the whip in one hand, Jnana Mudraya, the one whose other hand assumes the gesture symbolizing knowledge. Gita Mridatuhe, the one who milks the nectar of Gita. Krishnaya, unto that Krishna, Lord Krishna. Namaha, our salutations to the Lord Jagat Guru, Lord Krishna. And to the one who is a wish-fulfilling tree for those who have surrendered completely, who has the whip in one hand and the symbol of knowledge in the other, Lord Krishna, who milks the nectar, that is the Gita, and to that Lord Krishna, our salutations, our pranams. Krishna as a wish-fulfilling tree. In the third verse, Lord Krishna is likened to a wish-fulfilling tree said to be found in heaven. Whatever we wish for while sitting under this tree immediately appears in front of us. Krishna is this wish-fulfilling tree for those who have surrendered unto Him. To them He is the giver of everything. Why He is comparing us? That much faith have He will take care of us. He will give us what we deserve, what is the best for us. Krishna's control. In one hand, Krishna is holding the whip with which he drives the horses. His other hand assumes the gesture symbolizing knowledge. This means that Lord Krishna, does not give up the job of charioteer when Arjuna wants to be taught. Right in the middle of the battlefield, when Arjuna wants to know, Krishna assumes the role of a teacher. As Arjuna, a jiva surrendered, he surrendered totally to Lord Krishna. He was a Kshatriya with all power, Arjuna, but at that point of time, he, because the situation was like that, his mind was confused, he surrendered. So, for any human being in life, any situation, any circumstances, anything can come in life because of our prarabdha, because of sanchita. Whereas agami is very strong, total surrender. God will and surely will come and protect the bhakta. That is no doubt. In our Shastras, we can see Prahalada, Shabari, Ahalya, so many devotees. So, that assurance Lord is giving to Arjuna. Knowing fully well that Arjuna would fight, Krishna did not drop the whip. Arjuna dropped his bow and arrows, but Krishna kept the whip in his hand. He loosened the reins for the interim, but everything was under control. Unto the one who thus holds the symbol of knowledge, I offer my salutations. So that knowledge protected him. That knowledge guided Arjuna. Every point in Bhagavad Gita, it transformed Arjuna, means it will transform every jiva, every individual. We offer our salutations not to the symbol of knowledge, but to the one who has this knowledge of non-duality, which cannot be negated. That's why Lord is highlighting that knowledge is very important. That knowledge we bow down, not to any names and forms. Whatever we are studying, we are learning, let it be scriptures, any knowledge. Always Swamiji used to tell, attention to the knowledge alone, not to the person. Many times what happens, we think of the person, then the knowledge gets sidelined. That should not be an attitude. Let it be material also. Give importance to the knowledge, not to the form, because the form can change our thinking. So, to brighten our intellect, to have a proper attitude, being the spiritual path, this is very, very important. At any cost, persons are important, but going deep into the person, we should not be the attitude to the knowledge and knowledge alone. When we hear music, we should not bring the musicians as a major factor, but to the meaning of that song, meaning of the Tyagaraja Kriti, meaning of the Dikshadhar Kriti, and deeply contemplate on the Kritis like Saints Tyagaraja, Dikshadhar, Shama Shastris, how they led their life. That we should contemplate, not the singer who is singing. So, like that, even bhajans, even discourses, let us give importance to the knowledge. That's what Swamiji is highlighting in this. So the symbol of knowledge, Jnana Mudra, is formed by joining the three fingers and separating them from the index finger. The index finger then joins with the thumb to form a circle. Circle is what it means, beginningless and endless. The index finger, also called the accusing finger, stands for the self and usually joins the other three, representing the body, mind, and senses. By separating them out, we see that the body, mind, and senses are all anatma, not I. I had thought that these were the Atma, but they are not. That is very important. They are all anatma and are therefore understood as such. Whatever is not anatma is the self and is revealed by the teaching as identical with the limitless Brahman, represented by the thumb. So, everything else, body, mind, senses, everything is temporary, is not the truth, whereas the only truth is limitless Brahman. Without the thumb, the finger cannot grasp anything. It is important that the thumb be away from the fingers in order to do so. Similarly, the limitless Brahman is away from, unattached to the body, mind, and senses, because thumb is separate from the other four fingers, like the Brahman is separate from the Jagat. Without the limitless Brahman, the body, mind, and senses have no being, much less any function. So, without Brahman, nothing can function. So, that is the highlighting factor. We are just the doers, a devotee, the instrument of God, and in His hold we are. As an instrument, we do our activities. Previously, we thought of ourselves as limited. The circle created by the index finger and thumb signifies us that because we now have the knowledge of non-duality, the sense of limitation is gone. Just as a circle has no beginning and no end, we know ourselves to be limitless. That's what Swami is highlighting. Krishna, the giver of the Gita nectar. The Gita is likened to milk, and Krishna is the one who provides that milk, that knowledge. From where does the milk come? From the Shruti. Therefore, all the Vedas, the Upanishads, are likened to a cow, its milk being the Gita. Unto Krishna, Lord Krishna, the one who gives out the nectar, that is the Bhagavad Gita, our salutations. Hari Om. I conclude with this. We continue the next session. Radhe Krishna, Radhe Krishna. Hari Om, Radhe Krishna. We completed the third Dhyana Shloka of Srimad Bhagavad Gita. We have to discuss on the fourth Dhyana Shloka. Before that, Swamiji, little more, he emphasized on the Bhagavad Gita as a means of knowledge. The value which we give for the Bhagavad Gita. He talks about the value of values, a very important points for us to note and understand. What Swamiji is referring is understanding the value of ethics gives one the internal comfort and strength that is required to live with a sense of fulfillment, because there's very much required fulfillment in every action, in every thought, in every word. For a spiritual seeker, that should be contentment and fulfillment, which is a very, very important factor. Let it be objects, as earlier I told, circumstances. Everything depends on the how our attitude is. So Swamiji says external comforts carry limited value, and the degree of their value to us determines the degree of our dependence on them for comfort and strength. Careful understanding of what material success can and cannot provide, and what ethics can do to help one discover happiness, is the message of our scriptures. So, what gives happiness, we have to really understand. Whether really the material things till the last give us the happiness, or how we look at it, what is our attitude. So that he is analyzing. Important factor is emotional maturity. Comes from understanding the value of a value and making that value personal and natural. Unless we give value for anything for that matter, we will never try to understand the deep meaning. That's what Swamiji is referring. If we assimilate a value, then act from it without any hesitation or deliberation. For example, our value for hygiene does not permit us to eat something that has fallen on the ground. Such assimilation of a value is tested and discovered by living one's life in keeping with the universal moral order of the world. So Swamiji is telling one's integrity and personal value system determines the quality of one's life. Therefore, we need to discover role models for ourselves and for our generations in people whose lives were spontaneous expressions of dharma. We have seen many Mahans, how they are leading their life, to follow them. That's what Swamiji is referring. Through Itihasas, Puranas, and other scriptures, provide innumerable stories for the study and assimilation of dharma. If we follow the characters closely and appreciate their commitments, strengths, and weaknesses as revealed through their actions, we will come to understand the relative but universal nature of dharma. Living a life committed to dharma, one will discover inner strength and maturity. It is this mature individual whose search for truth will lead us to the discovery of happiness and inner freedom. So, with that true commitment, that maturity every individual should have to discover that happiness and that inner freedom. That's what Swamiji is highlighting. And the Bhagavad Gita as a means of knowledge. Swamiji is telling the Gita, of course, is not as voluminous as the Vedas, which includes all the Upanishads. Together, the Upanishads are the original source book which is understood with the help of books like the Gita, since these books present the same material very cogently in an easily understanding form. That is why the Gita is referred to as Gita Sastra. There are 700 verses in the Gita contained in 18 chapters. The first and the initial few verses, the second chapter, providing the context. We have done the entire Gita Shastra in the 17 chapters, wherein the twofold dharmas of a committed lifestyle for moksha is unfolded. Because the Gita is a grantha that unfolds this dharma, it is looked upon as a pramana grantha. Even though the Upanishads are the pramana, not being born of a given intellect, the Upanishads, meaning the Vedas, form the means of knowledge. But the Gita is also looked upon as a pramana because it upholds and unfolds what the Veda Shruti says. If the Gita said anything not in keeping with the Shruti, it would definitely not be considered as a pramana grantha. So Bhagavad Gita would not be studied, nor would Shankara would have written a commentary on it. Gita is accepted as a pramana grantha because of its affinity and fidelity to the Vedas. Lord Krishna himself confirms in the Gita that what he is saying has already been said in the Vedas. Furthermore, the Gita is presented by Vyasa, who is considered to be the editor of the Veda. The four Vedas, collectively referred to as the Veda, existed before Vyasa. He was the one who grouped them properly so that we could study properly and give it to the succeeding generations. Because Vyasa knew the Vedas so well, he was considered to be all-knowing Sarvajna. In the middle of the vast, beautiful world of the epic Mahabharata, Vyasa presented the wisdom of the Veda, the Gita. It shines in the midst of the much larger work like a pendant jewel. These 18 chapters are therefore considered to be an authentic pramana. So the first argument for the Gita being a pramana then is that it does not contradict what the Veda says. It expounds and illustrates what the source book says. The second argument is that it is presented by Vyasa. Thirdly, Vyasa presents Krishna as Ishvara, the Lord. Therefore, Krishna is looked upon as an avatara, a particular form the Lord has assumed for achieving certain limited ends. If the concept of avatara is accepted, Krishna as avatara is Lord Narayana, Ishvara himself. Therefore, when Krishna talks in the Gita, Ishvara, the Lord, is talking. What is said is the word of Bhagavan. Bhagavan Vacha. And Bhagavan is telling us what the Veda says. This again makes the Gita a pramana grantha for the believers. When Bhagavan himself is talking about what is said in the Veda, what else do we want? Because the Gita is Bhagavat Vachana, the word of Bhagavan. It is a pramana. So this is Swamiji has emphasized so that we all can contemplate and assimilate. Coming to the fourth Dhyana Shloka. सर्वोपनिषदो गावः दुग्धा गोपालनन्दनः पार्थो वत्सः सुधीर्भोक्ता दुग्धं गीतामृतं महत्. Sarva Upanishad, all of the Upanishads, Gavaha, cows, Gopala Nandanaha, one who is the nourished and protector of cows, Dogda, cowherd, Partha Arjuna, Vatsaha, calf, Suddhihi, one whose mind is clear, Bhokta, enjoyer, Mahat, great, invaluable, Gita, Amritam, nectar of the Gita, Dugdham, milk. The Upanishads are the cow, the son of cowherds. Krishna is the milker, Arjuna is the calf, the one whose mind is clear is the drinker, and the invaluable, timeless Gita is the milk. The first two verses praise the Gita and Vyasa because the Gita was taught to Arjuna by Lord Krishna. He is praised in the third verse as the teacher of the Gita, Gitacharya. The fourth verse, that is the fourth Dhyana Shloka, the nature of the Gita and the Lord are both mentioned. This is the subject matter of the Gita and it is being praised here. The Upanishads and the Gita as a cow and its milk. All of the Upanishads are taken into account in the Gita. To present the Gita as the essence of the Upanishads, a popular imaginary is used in this verse. Here, the cow, a symbol of wealth and sanctity, is presented to represent all of the Upanishads. Together, they form the body of the cow. If the Upanishads are the cow, then its milk is the Gita. Krishna as the milkman. Who is the milkman? Nowadays, milking is all done by machines, but previously it was now not easy to take milk from the cow. The cow has its own moods and will not yield for just anyone. In this verse, Krishna is acknowledged as the best milkman. Born into the family of a milkman in a cowherd community, Krishna did not need to be taught how to milk a cow. Even from cows with empty udders, Krishna was able to get milk. Just as he could get milk from a cow, Krishna is able to milk the Upanishads. He knows exactly what the subject matter is. He is the subject matter, in fact, because he knows the subject matter so well, he is best one to milk the Upanishads. Milk is the essence of the cow in that the many things a cow eats are also converted into milk. So too, the Upanishads talk about a variety of topics, but it is all converted into the milk of Vedanta Shastra, Brahma Vidya and Yoga Shastra. These are the two most important topics in all of the Upanishads. They form the milk then, and there can be no better milkman than Krishna. Lord Krishna as Gopala Nandana, the joy of cowherds. Lord Krishna is referred to here as Gopala Nandana. The word go in Sanskrit not only means cow, it also means words and earth. The one who gives meaning to all of these words is Lord Krishna, and the one who nourishes and sustains the earth with life is also Lord Krishna. In this verse, he is also referred to as the milkman, who is the joy of all the cowherds because he is the nourisher and protector of cows. Next, Arjuna, the cause of the Gita. A cow produces milk for the sake of its calf. Here also there must be a calf to generate the milk, that is the Gita. Arjuna, Partha, is the Vatsa, the calf, because he is instrumental in drawing the Gita out from Krishna, from Lord Krishna. Just as the cow's milk is born for the sake of the calf, the Gita by the Srimad Bhagavad Gita was born for the sake of Arjuna. Since the calf cannot take all the milk produced by the cow, there is extra milk for the people. In the same way, Arjuna acquired the milk of the Bhagavad Gita, and others are also the partakers of it, other devotees, all jivas. That's what it is conveying. partakers of the Gita. Unlike the milk from the cow, the milk of the Gita is endless. The enjoyer of this milk is the one whose mind is clear and who has discrimination. The person who is capable of inquiry, Shuddhi, then is a partaker of this milk. The Gita is likened to milk because it is nourishing to all. Milk is a complete food, a universal food. The message of the Gita is also universal. It is applicable to everyone at any time or place because it deals with the certain facts that do not change with time or place. So, he's telling this is timeless, the timelessness of the subject matter. That which does not change is the very subject matter of the Gita and is therefore described here as Amrita, nectar like. There are many meanings from the word Amrita, but the one that is most relevant here is that which is not subject to death. Whatever is not born by time does not undergo any change. That which immortalizes you, nourishes you, makes us happy is considered to be Amrita. Anyone can take it, is applicable to one and all devotees. This timeless nectar in Gita is described here as something that becomes more valuable the more it is given. The milk of the Gita is knowledge. The more knowledge you give, the more you have, because as you keep giving, the knowledge becomes clearer for us. So the clarity grows as we start reading and contemplating. Lord says in further chapters also that according to karma only, we have at least a desire to learn. So we are all fortunate that because of punya karma, we are in the spiritual line and we have mumukshus and jignasus to know the ultimate, that itself is the grace of the Lord. So that requires a tremendous blessings. We are all fortunate to know this knowledge through Swamiji. Continue the further sessions. Hari Om, Radhe Krishna. Hari Om, Radhe Krishna. We completed the 4th Dhyana Shlokam of Srimad Bhagavad Gita. Before entering the 5th Dhyana Shlokam, Swamiji has given little more importance about the self-knowledge. I thought I should share with you. It's very useful and it will elaborate. What he is trying to explain is, because that knowledge which we are gaining in the Gita, Srimad Bhagavad Gita, should be understood. Every word has to be understood properly. So he is trying to explain that so that understanding will be more easier. The subject matter of self-knowledge is very elaborately discussed in our scriptures. The primary scriptures of Sanatana Dharma are the Vedas, as we all know. All other scriptures are only elaboration of the primary scriptures. The Vedas comprises 2 sections, Veda Purva and Vedanta. Veda Purva deals with a religious lifestyle and discipline, adopting which a human being can be relatively peaceful, happy and prosperous. So all rituals etc. come in this. A spiritual seeker commences his journey with Veda Purva, that is Vedanta. And so this may be considered the first step in the spiritual path. The Veda Purva creates interest in Vedanta and strengthens the spiritual pursuit. So that is very important. As we do the rituals also, that will help us actually. If we study Vedanta, every puja we try to understand, and it becomes more interesting when we do any puja or any ritual, anything for that matter. With understanding we do, it helps that, so that knowledge we must very much know for doing the daily rituals also. So he is emphasizing on that knowledge. Vedanta provides self-knowledge to the spiritual seeker. This self-knowledge is also called Upanishad. What does this beautiful name indicate? Swamiji is telling. The word Upanishad is made up of 3 parts, Upa, Ni and Sad. Upa literally means close and must be understood as the closest to one, that is Atma or self. What is closest to us? It is we ourselves. The distance between the self and the I is zero. Upanishad Ni means Nischaya Jnanam or clear knowledge. So Upa Ni means Nischaya Atma Jnanam or clear self-knowledge. Sad means destroyer, the destroyer of ignorance and samsara, the problems we face. Thus, Upanishad means clear knowledge of Atma or self, which is the destroyer of ignorance and samsara. The Vedas contain several Upanishads, all of which impart self-knowledge. A well-known Upanishad is the Chandogya Upanishad that is found in Samaveda. What is self-knowledge? Before beginning a quest to acquire any knowledge, we must have clarity about the pursuit. We must know exactly what we want. It helps if we have at least a little knowledge of that knowledge. That is what he means is any knowledge, let it be music, let it be bhajan, let it be any subject, academic study also. We should go deep, that knowledge, understanding, we should try, not mechanically just read and leave it, because then that can't be assimilated at all. How a calculus person or who want to do PhD goes deep into that subject. So anything for that, let it be material, or let it be music, let it be any field. If you go to depth only, we gain that knowledge. Like in music, like Saint Tyagaraja and others, if you see, they have gone deep into the meaning of that kriti, because they see the Lord in that. How it's possible? Only through this knowledge. So for Saraswati Swami is emphasizing through knowledge only, through the words, but Devata comes in those words. That is very, very important. When we utter a mantra or a word in our scriptures, it is said, so we can see that power of that word. So he is emphasizing on that. To understand knowledge, we should know the 4 factors of knowledge. That is, first is locus of knowledge. Where does knowledge take place? Knowledge takes place only in the intellect, loosely referred to as mind. Mind only assimilates, whereas the intellect goes deep and finds the discrimination. So there is a subtle difference between mind and intellect. Only through intellect we can thoroughly understand and discriminate. Knowledge cannot occur in the physical body or Atma. Second is nature of knowledge. Knowledge is of one nature only, in the form of thoughts known as vritti. The intellect undergoes modifications and we gather knowledge. So the vritti takes place through thoughts, we understand, and that thoughts comes in the intellect, and then we assimilate and understand. So the intellect undergoes modifications and we gather knowledge. Third is object of knowledge. What we want to know is called the object of knowledge. It could be anything for that matter, material or spiritual. So that object of knowledge we should be very clear. Fourth is instrument or the means of knowledge. We acquire knowledge using some means or the other. These are called the instruments or means of knowledge. Every sense organ like ears, skin, eyes, tongue and nose is an instrument of knowledge. Scientists collect data using the sense organs and build up knowledge. In Vedanta, the means of knowledge is called pramanam. So that is very important, pramanam. Of the 4 factors, the first 2, locus and nature, remains the same for all knowledge. Whatever be the knowledge, it takes place in the intellect and is in the form of thoughts. What changes is the object and means of knowledge. The means of knowledge we use depends upon and is decided by the object of knowledge. To know sound, we have to use our ears. To know taste, we have to use our tongue, etc. etc. So now let us consider self-knowledge. As stated above, the first two factors, locus and nature, remains the same. Like any other knowledge, self-knowledge also requires the intellect as the locus. It is for this reason the scriptures talk about preparing the intellect for receiving knowledge. Kathopanishad says, by the purified mind alone, this knowledge can be realized. Self-knowledge has to take place in the form of a thought. Thoughtlessness is not knowledge. Appropriate thought alone is knowledge. So, Antakarna Shuddhi first is very much required. For that we do so many japas and so many other things to purify ourselves, to purify our thoughts. So that's what Swamiji is highlighting. What is the object of self-knowledge? This is something unique. In science, we learn about the external world. Vedanta call this aparavidya. In self-knowledge, the object of knowledge is the very subject of knowledge, I, that is called paravidya. So it is very, very important. It's to know our own self. Who am I? From where I have come. So all this, as I am a doer and non-doer. I am a doer with the, actually I am a non-doer. But as we are doing the actions, we feel as though we are doing it. But in the real state, if you see, everything, God has programmed the whole universe, like how computer is programmed. We are just the instruments in doing that action. So that's what is called to know our own self and to understand that and progress. What are the means of gathering self-knowledge? Here we face a lot of problems. All the sense organs, the means of knowledge, are turned outside. Katha Upanishad says the Lord has created the sense organs with the inherent defect that they are by nature outgoing. That's why beings see things outside and cannot see the self within. It is, if the sense organs cannot help us, neither can the material sciences, because all sciences are based on sensory data. So, sense organs, that's why we say put a control first on the senses. So that's very, very important, because our mind gets attracted with the outside world. So everything we have to put inward and try to know. How then can we acquire self-knowledge since there is no instrument? Swamiji is highlighting. With our eyes, we can see everything except our own eyes. However, by using a mirror, we can see the reflection of our own eyes. Similarly, we need an external aid to look inside our own selves. And that external aid or mirror that reveals our own nature to ourselves is Shastras or the scriptures. Scriptures make us understand to know ourselves, which is very, very important for a human being, which is a rare birth. After thousands and thousands of birth, we get this. So, how to utilize for what purpose we have come, how to attain the ultimate goal through scriptures alone, we can understand. So, thus, scriptural knowledge is synopsis with self-knowledge. There is a significant difference between a scriptural text and a secular text. Like for example, we have physics book. The word in the book conveys a knowledge that was gathered by means such as observations, experiments, etc. The word themselves do not constitute knowledge. They merely convey knowledge. Hence, the words of secular text are called carriers of knowledge. Whereas, such is not the case with our scriptures, the Vedas. The words of the Vedas themselves constitute the source of knowledge. They are not derived from a source as in the case of other knowledges, secular knowledge. The words themselves are the source, the origin. Thus, every word in the Veda is considered very sacred, very powerful. Mantras are so powerful, so deep, that mere by chanting itself we have so much power. Let it be Rudram, When you see the meaning, if you go deep, we understand the whole concept. That's why it is very, very powerful. Thus, Vedic or Upanishadic words produce a knowledge that cannot be gathered by any other means. So, our Upanishads are so deep and powerful that 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 jnana can be attained only through acharyas, or a guru is necessary to make us understand and discover that self-knowledge. So, guru helps us and makes us to travel in the spiritual path. How? So Guru helps us. That's how the Guru Shishya Parampara has come. Guru makes us understand systematically the Shastras and to gain that self-knowledge. So Srimad Bhagavad Gita is yet another example of a Guru. That Lord Krishna comes in the form of a Guru, imparting self-knowledge to the Shishya Arjuna. Thus, self-knowledge requires a prepared intellect, Shastras, and Guru. With this combination, self-knowledge can beautifully take place in all of us. With that understanding, we can always reach the ultimate. That is the highlighting factor. So, coming to the fifth verse of the Dhyana Shloka of Bhagavad Gita, Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kamsa Chanuramardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum. I salute Lord Krishna, teacher of the world, son of Vasudeva, destroyer of Kamsa and Chanura, the greatest joy of Devaki. I salute to that Lord Krishna. I conclude with this. The further meanings we'll take up in the next session. Hari Om, Radhe Krishna, Radhe Krishna. Hari Om, Radhe Krishna. We completed the fifth Dhyana Shloka of Srimad Bhagavad Gita. Before entering the sixth verse of the Dhyana Shloka, Swamiji a little more highlighted on the two important aspects for the pursuit of spiritual knowledge, which is very, very important for a devotee. That is Shraddha and Sharanagati. Especially for the pursuit of spiritual knowledge, these two are important. Even for material we require, but this is more subtler and deeper. So for a mumukshu, for a jignasu who wants to attain the feet of Lord in this janma itself, as I told, remove the prarabdha, lot of efforts have to be done, but it is not difficult. With Shraddha and Sharanagati, Lord Krishna says in the further chapters, with that if you do, the intellect also brightens, the knowledge, Goddess Saraswati gives us a bright intellect to grasp and assimilate this knowledge and show us the path and directs us so that it helps us, gives us the clarity to understand this knowledge. So Swamiji has highlighted these two aspects, Shraddha and Sharanagati. Swamiji was referring in one of his talks, on the Guru Purnima day, we invoke the grace of the entire Guru Parampara for two reasons. First, we pray that we may consistently practice Shravanam, Mananam and Nitidhyasanam. That is scriptural study under a Guru who removes our doubts, assimilation of the teachings. This is very, very important because Shravanam, Mananam and Nitidhyasanam alone can give us the spiritual knowledge that will enable us to succeed spiritually. Secondly, we pray that we may acquire the qualifications mentioned in the Shastras needed for Shravanam, Mananam and Nitidhyasanam. Our scriptures prescribe a fourfold qualification known as Sadhana Chatushtaya Sampati, that is Viveka, Vairagyam, Samadhi Sat Sampati and Mumukshutvam, that is discrimination, dispassion, sixfold disciplines and intense desire for liberation, which is very important. Just casually we can't take it. So the intense desire if we have, like how we have desire for material things, Same way, this intense desire if we have, He will guide us, Lord will guide us. So when we do our actions, the discrimination we should have, and dispassion is like attached, I had told, detached attachment and attached detachment. Anything in a detached outlook if we do, things becomes easier for us to face the situation and understand this knowledge. So that's why Swamiji is highlighting about this sixfold. Among the six attributes, there is one quality that the scripture strongly emphasizes. That is Shraddha, which is very important. Chandogya Upanishad says how this Shraddha is very, very important. So we won't go deep into the Upanishad. All the Upanishads refer that. So Swamiji has highlighted that. In the Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna highlights the importance of Shraddha and criticizes those who do not possess this attribute. Clearly, Lord Krishna says in one of the chapters, Bhagavad Gita says, the man of Shraddha, the devotee who has mastered his senses, obtain this knowledge. Mastered means he is very aware of his senses. With awareness, if you do, is very easy. That's why in every action, you should be in the present and with awareness do that action, not mechanically. So that's why how to do it, Swamiji is emphasizing. With awareness, you enjoy every action, then these sense organs has also come under our control. We should control them. They should not control us. That's why Swamiji says, we have to master our senses. With awareness, you enjoy every action, then these sense organs has also come under our control. We should control them. They should not control us. That's why Swamiji says, we have to master our senses. Bhagavad Gita also says, men devoid of Shraddha for this dharma do not attain me. That is, who doesn't have the Shraddha cannot reach the lotus feet. He tells to Arjuna also the same thing. Thus, the scriptures make it very clear that one without Shraddha cannot progress spiritually. That's why we are highlighting this, so that this will help us in further study of the scriptures. What is Shraddha? Before venturing to understand this concept, we should first know that Shraddha is a very, very subtle value. It is difficult to understand, easy to misunderstand. Shraddha is generally translated into English as faith or belief. We can use these words because we do not have a better translation of them in English. But let us always keep in mind that these are but poor equivalent. Swamiji is telling in English we can't get a better word. So he is further emphasizing that, as stated earlier, the traditional word Shraddha cannot be really translated as faith. There is no English equivalent at all because the principle of Shraddha does not exist in the Western world. When the concept does not exist, how can there be an underlining word? That's why Swamiji is highlighting that. What then is Shraddha? Shraddha is the knowledge of a principle that is arrived at through a very, very subtle form of inquiry. This very subtle inquiry was very much practiced by our ancestors many, many years ago, long before the advent of modern science. Through this subtle inquiry, our forefathers arrived at the knowledge of an important principle. The knowledge that is arrived at in this manner is called Shraddha. Swamiji says, we look at the world as existent and as a fact because the world is revealed by our sense organs. In other words, we accept what our sense organs reveal to be a fact. And we do so because we consider the sense organs as a valid source of knowledge. Sense organs are valid source of knowledge because they are primary sources of knowledge. What is a primary source of knowledge? The traditional people have answered this question. A primary source of knowledge is one that has validity inbuilt into it. Thus, validity is intrinsic to every primary source of knowledge. Validity is the essence of every primary source of knowledge, just as heat is the essential nature of fire and sweetness is the essential nature of sugar. Shraddha is understanding and accepting the sense organs as a reliable, valid source of knowledge. Therefore, what the eyes see is a fact, what the ears hear is a fact, etc. In science, what the eyes see is a fact, further inquiry is not done, because it is not required. Such is not the case in our tradition. Shraddha is knowledge born of the most fundamental inquiry. Swamiji says Shraddha promotes inquiry. Thousands of years ago, we did the subtlest of inquiries. Every teacher inquired. Our scriptures are in the form of inquiry. That is why in our tradition we have many books of inquiry called Siddhi Granthas, Vichara Granthas. So, there are so many scriptures which explain about Shraddha. So that is very important factor. So our tradition calls the Vedas the sixth sense organ and offers a guarantee and which gives us this deep knowledge. Coming to the sixth verse of the Dhyana Shlokam, Srimad Bhagavad Gita. भीष्मद्रोणतटा जयद्रथजला गान्धारनीलोत्पला शल्यग्राहवती कृपेण वहनी कर्णेन वेलाकुला अश्वत्थामविकर्णघोरमकरा दुर्योधनावर्तिनीं सोत्तीर्णा खलु पाण्डवैररणदी कैवर्तकः केशवः. Bhishma Drona Tata, with Bhishma and Drona as its banks. Jayadratha Tajala, with Jayadratha as its water. Gandhara Nilotphala, with Gandhara as the blue lily. Shalya Grahavati, with Shalya as the shark. Kripena Vahani, with Krishna as the speed of the water's flow. With Kripa as the speed of the water's flow. Karnena Velakula, with Karna as its breakers. Ashwatthama Vikarna Ghora Makara, with Ashwatthama and Vikarna as its killer whales. Duryodhana Vartini, and with Duryodhana as its whirlpools. Sa, that river. Rananadhi, river of battle. Khalu, indeed. Pandavai, by the Pandavas. Uttirna, crossed over. Kaivartakaha, the boatman. Keshavaha, Lord Krishna. With Bhishma and Drona as its banks. Jayadratha as its water. Gandhara as the blue lily. Satya as the shark. Kripa as the speed of the water's flow. Karna as its breakers. Ashwatthama and Vikarna as its killer whales, and Duryodhana as its whirlpools. The river of battle was crossed by the Pandavas, whose boatman was Lord Krishna. The Pandu's sons, were 5 in number. The oldest son was Yudhishthira, also called Dharmaputra. The second son was Bhima. Arjuna, who appears in the Gita, was the third son. The fourth and the fifth were Nakula and Sahadeva, as we are all aware of it. The river of battle. It is said that the Pandavas crossed the river of battle, Rananadhi, which is described poetically in this verse. Every river must have 2 banks within which the water flows. Without the banks, there would be no river at all. Bhishma and Drona are the two banks of this river of battle. Bhishma, Arjuna's grandfather, was the eldest in the family and a man of great vows. He was considered to be invincible even though he was old. Bhishma was such a great warrior that he never lost a battle. And Drona was the greatest archer, and he was guru of Arjuna. Both Bhishma and Drona were in Duryodhana's ranks against the Pandavas. Duryodhana took care of them during the 13 years that the Pandavas were in exile. He pampered them so much that they felt obliged to him, and he made sure that they felt obliged. Bhishma and Drona were his strength, and because of them, he thought he could win. He had one more important ally in Karna. Therefore, these three people were the indirect cause of this war. Without them, Duryodhana would definitely not have embarked upon it. In a river, there are always whirlpools. In this verse, Duryodhana is likened to be a whirlpool because anyone who went near him got sucked in. Once caught in a whirlpool, it is very difficult to get out. They all got sucked into this battle. Bhishma, Drona, Krupa, his uncle, all of them. Even though they were all very kind to the Pandavas, Duryodhana was able to drag everybody into his grip because he was such a scheming person. Duryodhana's other allies, although Bhishma and Drona were the banks of this river of battle, the river would have been empty if Jayadratha and his huge army had not been there. Jayadratha provided the manpower and was therefore the water. There are areas in the river where the water collects and remains. This is where the blue lilies grow, making the river not only beautiful but difficult to move through because of these entangling stalks. The king of Gandhara is referred to here then as the blue lily. The river being described was one that had sharks in it. Salya is likened to a shark and is called the great grabber. He was Karna's charioteer and was considered the greatest driver. A charioteer is very important in battle. He must not only have the great driving expertise, but he must also encourage the warrior whose chariot he is driving. But during this battle with the Pandavas, Shalya discouraged Karna as much as he could because of a promise he had made earlier. The current in this river was very fast. Its speed was provided by Kripa. Because of Karna, it was full of breakers. Ashwathama, the son of Drona, was a great archer and also a killer. Vikrana was one of the 100 sons of Dhritarashtra. These two, Ashwathama and Vikarna, were the youngest and are described as killers' whales. Crossing the river of battle. To cross such a terrible river is not easy. It is only possible by boat. Swimming across is impossible because of all the whales, whirlpools and breakers. Even a boat may not make it. This is, however, only Lord Krishna is our boatman who could cross this river of samsara, who could help us to cross this river of samsara. All the various problems which we have are like whirlpool problems, breaker problems. So all these problems, as referred in the Gita, was told by Lord Krishna to Arjuna. It's for all jivas also. And Lord Krishna, as a boatman, will definitely help us to cross this ocean of samsara. I conclude with this further in the next session. Hari Om, Radhe Krishna, Radhe Krishna. Hari Om, Radhe Krishna. We covered the 6th Dhyana Shlokam of Srimad Bhagavad Gita, and we also covered about how much Shraddha we should have in every action, especially in the spiritual path. And now, before entering the seventh Dhyana Shlokam, we were discussing that we should learn more about Shraddha and Sharanagati, so which is also very important for climbing this ladder, because just Sharanagati, as Swamiji says, will help us surely, but with total understanding, with the study of the scriptures and making use of the scriptures, will protect us, and Shastras will help us. That is true Sharanagati. Because our actions, we should know for what purpose we are doing, what are the fundamental values. Like even a Panchabhuta, like fire, Agni, water, that everything in our Shastras, a deep meaning conveys. We should be like full tolerance, and like Bhumi we say, we should have that attitude of tolerance. Like for Vayu, we should be like Vayu, we should be detached attachment, and attached detachment we learn from Vayu. From Agni we learn that we take the good values and leave the evil things. We see a person, we take only good things. And like fire, we should not think of any evil things at all. These are attitudes we learn from each aspect. Like water, we should be a role model to the family, to the society, to the nation, to the world. How with water alone can quench our thirst, nothing else. Same way, we should be a role model to the society. So all tattvas teach us how to be. So Swamiji is telling Saranagati is not just surrendering, but in every action we surrender and we learn the scriptures. The first kavacham or method given in the scripture for Sharanagati is dharma. Like other day I was referring, Satya and dharma. A Sanskrit verse says that dharma when violated hurts us. Dharma when followed protects us. Dharmo rakshati rakshitaha. Dharma protects those who protect dharma. Very, very famous and important sentence in Kali Yuga. Because in our action, every action from morning to evening, as Swamiji's effort, if you are dharmic and truthful, that is enough to take care of our life. Everything else comes later for Antakarna Shuddhi, Puja, etc. Because everything depends on our thought, vritti. So that's why he is going deep into the Sharanagati Tattvam and all this Tattvam, because with that it will be easier to understand what Krishna told Arjuna, Lord Krishna told Arjuna. That's why step by step I am analyzing. So dharma is very important. Dharma, when followed, will protect us. Dharma means a healthy way of life, consistent with the physical and moral laws of the universe. We cannot ignore dharma and hope to enjoy a happy life. The Shastra says all the problems we face, ranging from minor suffering to major tragedies, are due to our violating dharma in the immediate or remote past. We alone are accountable, Swamiji says. We alone are responsible. If violation of dharma is the cause of our suffering, adherence to dharma is the solution to our problems. So Lord Krishna also talks about a dharmic way of life in several places in the Bhagavad Gita. In chapter 3, 16 and 17, when we start studying, we'll understand. Just as a healthy food at the right time and right we take, and right exercise at the right time, wards off diseases, we say, a dharmic lifestyle protects us from all problems. So that is the highlighting factor he says about Sharanagati. Second point, he is telling, not all our problems are solved by dharma. Many healthy people, in spite of all their efforts, do fall ill. In such a case, Shastra prescribes a special remedy called parihara or prayashchittam, meaning remedial measures. Swamiji says many of our daily prayers, including the mantras of Sandhyavandanam and others, are remedial measures. Like Rudram is very, very powerful. It's a Prayaschitta mantra. So, unknowingly and unknowingly, Swamiji what is telling, we might do, but our free will is so powerful that our conscience is there to guide us. So unknowingly we might do once, but every time unknowingly and say Karachara Kritam Va Kayacham Karmacham Va, that we have that sloka, that is for very, very unknowingly we have done a karma. For that only, every time we say that, it won't have that effect. That's what he's highlighting. So we have to be very careful. So these prayaschitta karmas will help us when we do unknowingly. The third point he's telling, some problems will not go away either by dharma or parihara also. The scriptures contain stories of many people like Yudhishthira, Nala, Harishchandra, who were dharmic to the core, who did all the parihara and yet had to go through untold sufferings. So sometimes my mind can come, I have done so much from the day of birth till today, but we don't know the prarabdha. So for that also, this agami karma we have to do. So that's why Swamiji is highlighting. So great person like Harishchandra had to have the suffering. The only method to face this situation is to develop a skill by which choiceless sufferings are converted into learning experiences. So every experiences teaches us a lesson. It's an examination. So we can't blame God in this. It is our own karma. God is helping us to face the situation and to come over it. That's why the understanding has to be very, very clear. We can call this as yoga kaushalam. It is like extracting medicine from poison. If science says that if poison can be converted to medicine, suffering can be converted to tapas. So, with the tapas shakti, we can face the suffering. Brihadaranyaka Upanishad says this is a great penance that when a deceased person faces it, he can come over it without any problem, any suffering. So that much the tapas shakti has. The Upanishad says that when we are afflicted by sufferings, Swamiji states that we have to accept it as a form of tapas. We have to accept the problems as it is, because there's no choice for us. It is again our prarabdha only. So that understanding has to be very, very clear. We can't blame God in that. In this birth, we might be very, very pure. Everything can be good. But past, Lord only knows. So He gives us the best. If suffering is there, means we are growing more spiritually. That's what Swamiji is highlighting. This requires a lot of effort and training. In that we must change our perspective and attitude. We must stop working at the outward or external level and start working at the internal or mental level. So externally we might feel because of that the suffering is there. But when we start studying the scriptures, what he means is internal is when we deep understand the shastras, then with this knowledge we come to know it is not anybody's mistake. So that much the clarity starts growing in our intellect and the understanding comes. So we try to understand the whole thing very clearly. Lord Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita in one of the chapters that we should not lament over the inevitable. We should not too much worry. That's why we should just, that is the Sharanagati. Problem comes, we lead to the Lord, face it cheerfully with a calm mind. The solution will give that assurance, Lord says. Solution will get, the question of time. The fourth and the most powerful shield is Atma Jnanam or self-knowledge. Once self-knowledge solves a problem, it is solved for good. The problem is gone, never to return. Lord Krishna again says in the Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna, when you have reached enlightenment, ignorance will delude you no more. That is the Sharanagati Tattva, comes in one of the chapters where Lord Krishna says to Arjuna, that's what is highlighted here. So that is the Sharanagati, total unshaken faith in the Lord with that jnanam, with that self-knowledge. The other three shields offer a relative solution. Jnanam is a permanent solution. That's why Atma Jnanam, self-knowledge, is very, very important. Because any other knowledge can't solve our problem, each one's problem. So only with this Jnanam will help us. That is the permanent solution. And Jnanam is provided by the Shastras. The last important verse in the Bhagavad Gita, in chapter 18, verse 66, we all know very well, known as Ranagata mantra it is. Renounce all dharmas and take refuge in me alone. There also, Lord Krishna says, even we renounce the dharma, because everything is He only. All these are for growing, for ignorance person. Once the knowledge dawns on us, we are just the instrument. Everything, even dharma, everything is in His hand. He guides us and we sincerely follow with Sharanagati Tattvam. Renounce all dharmas and take refuge in me and me alone. I shall liberate you from all sins. Grieve not, he tells Arjuna. In this commentary on the Bhagavad Gita, Adi Shankara does not say drop your will or drop your responsibility and wait for miracles to solve your problems. He clearly says we have to attain jnanam. So nothing can, miracle happens because we have surrendered to Lord and He does that miracle to save us. So that understanding comes only through knowledge. That's what Adi Shankara says. That's what Lord also says. So that understanding, that understanding is very, very important. Lord talks to us through Shastras. Even today we can learn the Shastra from a Guru. Only Guru can help us and make us understand. Therefore, Sharanagati means surrender to Shastra, surrender to the Guru. So that is very, very important. Coming to the 7th Dhyana Shloka of Srimad Bhagavad Gita. पाराशर्यवचः सरोजममलं गीतार्थगन्धोत्कटं नानाख्यानककेसरं हरिकथा सम्बोधनाबोधितं लोके षड्जनषट्पदैरहरहः पेपीयमानं मुधा भूयाद्भारतपङ्कजं कलिमल Pradvamsina Shreyase. May the spotless lotus Mahabharata, born of the waters of the words of the son of Parashara, Vyasa, having the meaning of the Gita as its sweet fragrance, with its many stories as stamens, fully opened by the revealing stories of the Lord. Hari, relished happily day after day by the honey bees who are the right thinking people of the world. May it be for the good of the one who wants to destroy the blemishes of Kali Yuga. So this is a verse in praise of the Mahabharata itself. Let it be for the good of all people. Let this beautiful lotus epic be for moksha, liberation, the most desired end for a human being. That's why Lord is emphasizing. It destroys all the problems of Kali Yuga. Kali is that which is selfish. Any evil is called Kali. Kali Yuga is a yuga, a time period when people become easily caught up in their own likes and dislikes. So nothing is outside, everything is inside us. Likes and dislikes, raga, dvesha. If we come over it, Lord will guide us and protect us with Sharanagati Tattvam. I conclude this verse. Further meaning we'll take in the next session. Hari Om, Radhe Krishna, Radhe Krishna. Hari Om, Radhe Krishna. We were in the 7th Dhyana Shloka of Srimad Bhagavad Gita. 7th verse. We have chanted the meaning of the words. Amalam, spotless. Parasharya Vachas Sarojam, the lotus born of the waters of the words of the son of Parashara, Vyasa. Gita Artha Gandha Utkatam, having the Gita as its sweet fragrance. Nana Kyanaka Kesaram, with many stories as its stamens. Harikatha Sambodhana Bodhitam, fully opened by the revealing stories of the Lord Hari. Loke, the world. Sajjana Shatpadaiha, by the honey bees who are right thinking people. Aharahaha, day after day. Muda, happily. Pepiyamanam, relished. Bharata Pankajam, the lotus of Mahabharata. Kalimala Pradvamsinaha, the destroyer of the blemishes of Kali Yuga. Shreyase, for the good. Bhuyat, may it be. Mahabharata has a number of guidelines for people to follow. It talks about ethical, personal, social, and political values, and even logistics through interpretative illustrations. The lotus, that is the Mahabharata. What kind of a lotus is the Mahabharata? Swamiji says, just like any other lotus, it is born of water. It comes from the water of words. This water of words springs forth from the Vyasa, the son of Parashara, sage Vyasa. Also, this word lotus is as clean as the lotus in the pond. It has the strong, sweet fragrance of the meaning of the Gita. A meaning is something silent. It is something that we understand. You can repeat a word because it is a sound, but its meaning is always silent. You can see a flower, but the smell cannot be seen anywhere. We can only sense it. Similarly, the meaning of the Bhagavad Gita makes the whole Mahabharata waft with fragrance. This epic is the lotus that exudes the fragrance of the meaning of the Bhagavad Gita. There are many small stories within stories within stories. These stories are like the rows of stamens of the lotus. The stamens of the saffron flower are the most fragrant, whereas the stamens of the lotus are known for their beauty. If the Gita is the fragrance of the Mahabharata, then the stories are the stamens which give its beauty. Because of Lord Krishna's presence in the Mahabharata, it is the Lord's story. Without it, Bhagavad Gita would be a lotus that has not yet bloomed. The opening of a bud generally requires the sun's rays. Here, the Lord's story is the sun. It opens up the Mahabharata with devotion. It provides the light necessary for this opening. Enjoyment of the Bhagavad Gita. The Gita is being enjoyed happily, Swamiji says. All devotees are drinking deeply from it, taking more and more day after day. Who are these devotees? They are likened to an insect with 6 legs, a honey bee, for instance. Human beings have 5 sense organs plus a thinking intellect. Some extra intellect is necessary to extract the nectar from the epic flower that is the Bhagavad Gita. The devotees who enjoy the Gita are therefore thinking people, those who use their intellect. It is very important. Let this Gita, which is the destroyer of all the problems in Kali Yuga, of problems caused by likes and dislikes, be for the good of all people. The next verse is in praise of the Lord. I salute Lord Krishna, who is all Ananda, joy, fullness, whose form and expression are Ananda, and who is Lord Krishna. Mukam karoti vachalam pangum langayate girim yat tamaham vande paramananda madhavam. Yat whose grace, mukham, the mute, vachalam, eloquent, karoti, makes, pangum, one who is lame, girim, mountain, langayate, causes to scale, tam, him, Paramananda Madhavam, Krishna, the Lord of Lakshmi, wealth, whose nature is fullness, aham, I, vande, salute. I salute Lord Krishna, the Lord of Lakshmi, wealth, whose nature is fullness, whose grace makes the mute eloquent and causes the lame to scale mountain tops. Madhava is another name for Lord Krishna, one who has all the resources and wealth with him, who is Bhagavan, the Lord. We salute the one who is Madhava, Bhagavan, and whose expression and essential nature is fullness, Ananda, Ananda Swarupa, who is Ananda, all happiness, fullness, the Lord's grace. This verse adds something more, that is grace, Kripa. Grace is something that is earned. It's not something that the Lord randomly distributes day by day. If He did, he would be partial, which is not the case, Swamiji says. Grace is a graceful expression for karma phala. Karma is what we do, and phala is the result of what we do. So every action, what we do, accordingly, the karma phala, the results come, whether immediately or later, depending on the time. Prayer as an action. Prayer is also a karma and action. Because it is an action, it necessarily produces a result. The result is twofold: seen drishtaphala and unseen adrishtaphala. One example of a seen result is the psychological benefit of prayer. The very fact that we are able to pray is itself a benefit. Also, as a result of prayer, there can be the psychological benefit of having someone upon whom we can rely. We can have faith, total faith. Any individual has limitations, whereas the one who we pray is looked upon by you as limitless. Even without understanding, the Lord is looked upon as someone who is omniscient. What is omniscient? All knowing, all knowingness. No one understands totally what it means to be omniscient, to be all knowing. To understand all knowledge, we must be all knowing. However, our knowledge is limited. From this limited knowledge, we can always know a little more, but that also will be limited. What we can very easily understand, however, is limitation in knowledge. From that, we are able to appreciate that an omniscient person is free from limitation with respect to knowledge. That's what is meant by having an appreciation of omniscient. What is omniscient? Who is the omniscient person? Is he or she another kind of person or one of us? Swamiji is telling, there is therefore a great deal of knowledge to be known in order to appreciate Ishvara, the Lord. This Ishvara, then I invoke in the form of a prayer. So Swamiji is explaining the all-pervading, omniscient Lord, the results of prayer. Prayer is a karma and produces an immediate result, a visible result. That we are able to invoke the Lord is the result. We have someone to rely on, someone who is all powerful, almighty, all knowledgeable, unlike anyone else. From this, we gain a certain strength, knowing that we can draw on this power to the extent that our capacity to draw on it allows. It is like having a huge reservoir of water. We need not bring all the water at once. It need not matter that we are small or big. Just knowing that there is so much water in the reservoir gives us a certain strength. So thus the immediate benefit we experience because we are able to pray is that there is someone for us who is all knowledgeable, upon whom we can draw whenever and as much as we want. Anything we can ask the Lord. That's what Swami is highlighting. He is the omniscient, all powerful. So the phala is, this is the drishta phala, the seen result that we are praying. We can experience that. There is also adrishta phala, the unseen result of prayer. That is what we call grace, which benefits us, which we cannot attribute to a particular day's prayer. That's what is highlighting. The grace comes through time only. Because it counts the past karma, the present, and the agami. So the grace depends on that. Immediately also it can come after some time, but Swamiji says Lord assures that it will come, provided we are a true bhakta with all Shraddha and Sharanagati, as we have seen in the earlier the explanation of Shraddha and Sharanagati, how a bhakta has to be. In this Kali Yuga we have seen the great bhaktas, Jnaneshwar, Tukaram, Eknath, so many, there's no words to express their bhakti. So in the Gita also, the relationship of the Lord and the bhakta is very important. The Sharanagata Tattvam, the Sakshatkara, we can see the Lord with that deep devotion. That is very, very important. It's not that a casual reading of any scriptures, deep understanding, deep contemplating every word. When we chant like a Rudra or anything, any prayer, the Devata is present there, and we can see the transformation in ourselves the days to come. That's why Swamiji is highlighting that Adrishtaphala we can gain immediately also, depending on how deep is our bhakti and prayer. Swamiji says grace is earned the same way that we earn anything else. Since we are not able to relate as unseen result to a given course of action on our part in the immediate past, we are constrained to call this result as grace. This grace is able to convert a mute into one who is eloquent and enables a lame person to climb a mountain. Kalidasa, the celebrated poet, was considered to be a mute, but because of grace, he began pouring out verses. Similarly, Valmiki became a great poet because of grace. In day to day life, we often hear various stories of the innumerable diseases which have vanished, which have cured because of Lord's grace. We require a certain amount of maturity and understanding about Ishvara. Appreciate these unseen results as what we call grace benefits, which we cannot attribute to a particular day's prayer. That's what Swamiji is highlighting. Swamiji says grace then is something that we receive purely as a result of our own karma, action done either in our immediate past or in the remote past. Because of this result, this grace, certain situations happen in our favor. What is generally taken to be impossible is made possible by grace. In fact, all of life is like that. The impossible is made possible in our life. We think we are doing, but everything Lord decides and does for us which is best for us. But because of our ignorance, we never realize that. With this verse, I salute Bhagavan, the one by whose grace the mute becomes eloquent and the lame scale mountain tops, the one by whose grace the impossible is made possible. This is the beauty of Lord's grace. So with deep devotion and bhakti, we can ultimately reach the lotus feet. That also is by Lord's grace we can achieve that moment with the understanding of the scriptures. We'll move to the next verse in the next session. Hari Om, Radhe Krishna, Radhe Krishna. Hari Om, Radhe Krishna. We were in the 9th Dhyana Shlokam of Bhagavad Gita. Word meaning: Brahma, Varuna, Indra, Rudra, Marutah. Brahmaji, Varuna, Indra, Rudra and Marutah. Divyaihi, Stavaihi. Divine hymns of praise. Yam, him. Stunvanti, sing. Samagaha, the singers of the Samaveda. Sa Anga Padakrama Upanishadah, with a full complement of the limbs of singing in the order of Pada and Krama and the Upanishads. Vedhai Sanga Padakramopanishadaihi, that is the meaning of this. Vedahi, by the Vedas. Yam, him. Gayanti, sing in praise. Yoginaha, contemplative people. Dhyana Dhyana Tadgatena Manasa, with a mind resolved in him in a state of meditation. Pashyanti, see clearly. Yam, him. Sura Asura Ganaha, by the celestials as well as demons. Esyantam, whose nature na viduhu, do not know. Tasmai Devaya, unto him the Lord. Namaha, my salutations. Praised by exalted beings. Swamiji is telling, who is this Lord? Is he the one about whom all the gods from Brahmaji downwards sing hymns of praise? In addition to Brahmaji, the verse specially mentions the Devas, Varuna, Indra, Rudra and Marutaha. Even though these Devas are exalted beings, they are still Jiva, individuals, occupying special positions. Their songs of praise to Ishvara are found in the Vedas. Second point, praised by scholars. Those who are not able to sing the Samaveda those who are able to sing the Samaveda also praise the Lord. To sing the Vedas, one must have the knowledge to do so. 6 other disciplines of knowledge are required. That is Siksha, Vyakarana, Kalpa, Chandas, Nirukta, and Jyotishaha. The reciters of the Samaveda sing in praise of the Lord the hymns of Sama in the manner called Pada and Krama, and the Upanishads, which reveal the truth of the Lord. Praised by contemplative people, Swamiji says, then there are the contemplative people who meditate upon the truth of Ishvara, whom they see very clearly. How do they see? With their minds. What kind of mind? A mind that is in a state of contemplation, a mind that is absorbed, tranquil and subtle. These people contemplate again and again with minds that are awake to the true nature of the Lord, which they have come to appreciate through listening to and analyzing the Shastras, the teachings. So Swamiji is beautifully analyzing how a body requires cleaning, same way our mind, our chitta, antakarna shuddhi is very, very important. Yesterday when I was listening to Srimati Vishaka Hari, beautiful example she gave. Because cleaning the body is very easy, whereas cleaning the mind to keep it clean, tranquil, not even a small thought of will make us impure. So how it is done is through, like how for a good health a doctor is required, for a good mind, for a good antakarna, a guru is a must, as a must. She emphasized very beautiful examples she gave. From the day we are born to the last breath, every step we have guru. Every person, we can say how we share. Yesterday we were talking about relationship. From the childhood, father and mother, we say Mata Pita Guru Devam. Everything they teach. Then school, every teacher is a guru. Music, whatever we learn is from the guru. So guru is very, very necessary for an individual. Swamiji emphasized, she also told. For a good health, how a doctor is required till the last breath. So a guru is a must to train us to reach the ultimate. Only guru can teach us. If a very evolved person can learn by himself, that is an exception. Whereas for a normal individual, the day one, that's why to broaden the vision, Vasudeva Kutumbakam, she was telling. When we broaden our vision, from the child we can learn so many things. From each person we learn. There is an experience. That's why if we have that vision, then never have the feeling of comparison, jealousy. That's what, with this vision alone can raise us, inner growth can come, she was emphasizing. Because these things, if we have to come out of these things, then this is the only method to see as one family, the relationship. With that attitude, like she was gave the example of a screen. A screen in picture looks very white, and so many things we see in that we see. Like that, we have to visualize our life also. That is 3 hours picture, whereas our life for some people is 30 years, for some people it is 60, for some people 90, for some people 100. So in that stage, we have to see as the like how a movie is seen. Our life is also as a movie like this. Birth after birth it goes. So in this birth, how much we have done to the society, to the family, with dharmam and satyam. So that's why it's highlighting. Swamiji is emphasizing that. So mind is very important, our thoughts, which will really help us to grow spiritually. So shastras are very important, and a guru is a must from the child to direct us, to guide us. That's why Swamiji is emphasizing on that. Swamiji says there are people who praise the Lord as one with a form and attributes. The whole creation with all its glory is nothing but the Lord's form. There are others, yogis, who see the Lord as formless, whose nature is not known by either gods or demons. So initially we require a form, later formless. That's what he's emphasizing. So initially for doing the karma we keep that. Later we grow. Like from ABCD kindergarten we do PhD. We leave and take up the higher. Same way. Same way with this understanding we are doer. Later we should think that we are just an instrument. We are a non-doer. Everything is done by the Lord. We are just the instrument. Everything He takes care. So that is the truth. That bhavana will automatically get when we start doing it. Just now when I was hearing to Jai Krishna Dikshidhar, he was mentioning in Pandharpur, now it is going on in Govindapuram. He was mentioning, they were all surprised how this time pandemic you have kept the Kumbhabhishekam. Everything Panduranga takes care, he was mentioning. Every step, 15 days program is going on. Devotees throng in. Each devotee we see as Ishvara. So the whole Jagat we start seeing that Ashura, we need not worry. Everything He takes care. So that can come only with this attitude. See me in everything, see everything in me. The whole Jagat is Ishvara. We start contemplating. The other day Swamiji was telling, even Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu, if you tell 101 times in a day, that itself broadens your vision. So every mantra, every word in that mantra, the Devata is present there, which is invoked. That is the highlighting factor Swamiji is referring. So Swamiji is referring, through Vedas we contemplate on the limitless form of the Lord and try to understand the whole Gita. So the Dhyana Shlokam. So we have finished the 9th verse. So the Gita herself is also praised, after which Vyasa is praised, because of whose grace we now have the Gita. Arjuna is recognized in the verses as being its cause. Without him, there would be no Gita. So where Arjuna, we have to place in Arjuna's place as every jiva, Lord is referring. So because Arjuna asked for it, so we also got that from the Lord. We have the Lord's song, the Bhagavad Gita. So Lord Paramatma, Lord Krishna is addressing to every jiva, every individual, to cross this ocean of samsara. So life, as we know, Swamiji says, is samsara is considered to be a river of battle in which people drown. The verses do not tell us how the river can be crossed, nor do they mention Krishna's grace. We simply need to understand that the boatman, Lord Krishna, is the one whose grace enables us to cross. Without His grace, we can never cross the ocean of samsara. That we have to very, very clearly understand, which is emphasized in all scriptures, from Bhagavad Gita onwards, Bhagavatam, everywhere, Devi Mahatmyam, every scripture emphasizes on that. So that grace automatically comes step by step. We are hearing today is because of the grace of the Purva Janma, and we are utilizing this time is because of that. So everything is programmed as how in the computer. So the remote is with the Lord. We think we are doing it, but everything is programmed. So accordingly, the parents come, we have a family, we are the satsang, everything because of karma, it's programmed. So we are just the instrument. Swamiji is having invoked the Lord, help by this prayer to the Gita, we can now commence our study. So next class we'll start with the first chapter, the introduction to the first chapter. We'll learn and try to understand the whole scripture very systematically by the grace of Lord and by the grace of Guru. Continue in this next session. Hari Om. Radhe Krishna. Radhe Krishna.